How do everybody? Got a story here again that I don't think is going to come as much of a surprise to most of you, and it's in regards to policing and what is being perceived in the past, or recently, sorry, to be called two-tiered policing, or preferential treatment towards certain groups. Now, I know some people may deny that's actually happening, but I think it's quite obvious to most people, including myself, that when you're watching the police, specifically the Met Police as well, they do treat minority groups with kid gloves compared to the indigenous population, especially when it comes to things like protesting and things like football groups or whatever. There does seem to be a disparity in the treatment. Now, obviously, the police have been denying this. But we also saw it in lockdown as well, like when the police were taking the knee for Black Lives Matter and partying with LGBT pride protests and things like that. And yet, anti lockdown protests were met with horses and batons and riot shields and dogs. That was the difference during lockdown. So, in my opinion, I think it's absolutely beyond reasonable doubt that the police do treat people different just from video footage alone. Now, here we have an example of it coming from Essex Police themselves. A document from the force has been leaked, which does seem to appear to show that there is a disparity between how they treat different groups. So, revealed. Oh, by the way, I will put the link in below. Do read the document. Do read this yourself. Please do make your own mind up and don't just go what I say. But I do think what I'm going to say is right. Essex Police call white people non-protected group in leaked diversity documents. And I think that language, non-protected group, by logical deduction and conclusion, must mean that there are protected groups. And that must mean, through, again, logical deduction, that protected groups receive preferential treatment in order to protect them. Otherwise, they wouldn't be protected. They'd just be the same as everybody else. And by everybody else, we mean white people. Essex Police has come under fire for describing white people as a non-protected group in a diversity memo. GB News can reveal. In documents seen by this broadcaster, this is GB News by the way, the force has set a goal to narrow this disparity in stop and search and other police actions between protected and non-protected groups. The force's monitoring of stop and search in diversity documents lists two groups, white and black, Asian and minority ethnic, which is colloquially called BAME as the acronym. Quite old hat now that. They don't like using it so much anymore, so I'm surprised they still use it. The Equality Act lists 9 protected characteristics, including age, sex and race. No other police force refers to non-protected groups in its publications. Essex Police did not explain its use of non-protected groups, nor dispute that it refers to white people. A former police officer said that it was appalling to see the woke wing of the police force promoting the idea of protected groups and non-protected groups. Well, I know there are plenty of police officers, by the way, and they do fantastic jobs, who are appalled by all of this kind of thing. But the fact of the matter is the police are picking sides and they are choosing who to police and who not to police. And we see this all the time as well in way that arrests are made and how certain crimes are allowed to go away. We see this in sentencing in the courts when you actually look at who gets sentenced for first-time offences more often than not. And then it ends up resulting in those groups of people who don't get sent to prison for first-time offences end up getting heavier sentences because they're repeatedly in front of a judge because they think, oh, this is great, I'm getting away with crime. But we also saw it recently as well. There's been a police officer from the Met who's been found guilty of assault against a woman who he wanted to see a ticket, see if she'd been on a bus, and she was refusing to do it. Now, it turns out that she had actually bought a ticket, which is fair enough, but all she had to do was actually show the police officer a ticket, and the whole situation could have been sorted out very easily, but she was refusing to show the ticket. Most likely on principle. I mean, for whatever reason, she didn't want to show a ticket, which is fair enough. She doesn't have to. But at the end of the day, that officer then has reasonable suspicion to believe that she's fair dodging because she's refusing to show a ticket. Now, I think, again, that shows the two-tiered policing going into effect against the police themselves in that case, because the police officer was white and the woman was black. So I think the police have basically thrown that officer under the bus in order to not appear, quote-unquote, racist. Which is exactly what happened with the grooming gang scandal, even the term grooming gang scandal, I think, shocking, because it's not grooming gang scandal, it's Pakistani Bangladeshi Muslim rape gang scandal. That's what it should actually be called. And again, that's all part of the two-tiered ideology around it, because the whole system is so caught up on huffing its own farts around not appearing to be racist that they're losing sight over what actually matters, and that's they're there to fight crime and deal with things. And I think a lot of this as well comes from what was from the murder by the police in, I think it was London, of a black man called Stephen Lawrence, which was a horrific crime, by the way. It was terrible what they did to him. But that then had what was called the Macpherson inquiry, which happened after it. And basically, my understanding is that the Macpherson inquiry brought into effect that the police have to treat different groups differently. And it's all basically spiraled from that. I mean, there's other stuff as well around it, but for me, that is the main instigating factor in a lot of these problems, that it does come from Macpherson. And we now have a whole ideology system based around it as well, coming through the universities and all that other stuff, which people are fully aware of, and I don't think needs to be explained. Even the Manchester Arena bombing, that could have been avoided, but the guards didn't want to search. I think Simon Abedi was his name, or Abedi or something like that. They didn't want to search him because they didn't want to be accused of racially profiling him, which then resulted in, I believe it was 22 people being killed when he detonated the bomb in his bag. So this is the problem that we have in our entire society, that people, again, moral cowardice, as I said in a couple of other videos recently. We've just got a completely cowardly hierarchy in all of our institutions, where they're more concerned about their own career paths and not being labelled some sort of ist, phobe or igot of whatever stripe or value. So anyway, in a statement, a police spokesman said, if you commit a crime, you can expect to be arrested, whoever you are. If you need help, you can expect to get it, whoever you are. Well, yeah, in a perfect world, absolutely. But the problem is now is that if they're calling, this police force in particular is saying that white people are non-protected, are white people going to feel confident interacting with the police in any way, shape or form? Because I wouldn't. If I was having the police knocking on my door in Essex and they were wanting to question me, I would actually be refusing to interact with them, or at least I would be wanting to speak to my solicitor first in private and saying, I don't feel confident now speaking to the police because they clearly have a political agenda that they are pursuing, and I don't think I'm going to get a fair hearing from the police, so I don't think it's right for me to cooperate with them based upon this, because it undermines confidence in the police. They are supposed to police without fear or favour, as John Peel, the man who created the police force, initially started them out to be. That was the whole thing of the police, without fear or favour. And what that means, by the way, is without fear means to go into anywhere and not be scared to do so. And without favour means not to pick any particular group to either persecute or protect over any other. It's equal treatment across the board, and to enter anywhere to investigate any crime. That's what it's supposed to be about. The controversial reference to non-protected groups is found in the force's diversity, equality and inclusion strategy for 2020 to 2025. So this is recent as well. You know, they can't even say like, well, this is old hat now and it's out of date. This is very, very relevant and very in vogue. And although other police forces aren't including this necessarily directly in their paperwork, I wouldn't be surprised if this is bleeding into other forces. It's just that the other forces are being much smarter about how they're implementing it. Introducing the strategy, Chief Constable B.J. Harrington, well, that's quite an appropriate name, I think, said, our diversity is everything. It's like Cressida Dick, head of the Metropolitan Police. She very, very much did live up to that full title. Cressida Dick, head of the police. So the senior officer said, we are celebrating our diversity and ensure established and newer communities interact and grow safely together with mutual understanding, respect and dignity for all. How can you have mutual understanding, respect and dignity for all if you are classifying two different categories, one being protected and one being non-protected within the eyes of your force? That is not the same, is it? He added, any form of inequality or disproportionality can harm community cohesion. We commit to resolving these inequalities. Sometimes our operations may involve stopping 10 people to find one weapon, and we sincerely apologise for the inconvenience this causes. I've been stopped and searched before. Preston train station. They searched me bag. Went through it. I was on leave from the army. I didn't have a problem with it. I did not have one single problem. I was inconvenienced for maybe 2 minutes. They had a police dog there. They were sniffing all the stuff. Went through all my kit. It was just, I can't even remember what I was doing now. It wasn't that I was coming. I'd been home for a few days, and I was getting off. I'd come from Blackpool to Preston. I can't even remember what it was for now. And they were just stopping random people. They pulled me to one side, Went through my bag, and they had the dog there, just sniffing me. Got the dog to sniff me. Got the dog to sniff stuff in my bag, and they said, "Right, that's it." I said, "All right, cheers, guys, thanks, bye." Off I went. Not a problem. I don't get what is the issue. It was most likely because I was a young man, and when I was in the army, I was quite big. I did a lot of weights, a lot of training, and I had a skinhead, and obviously my face was shaved. So they probably looked at me and thought, he looks like a young man who may get into trouble. Let's stop him, and that's understandable. I don't mind. It's just whatever. Mr. Harrington also lamented the disparity in the come on, Dave, get your words out. The disparity in the number of young black men who enter the criminal justice system, and made reference to the death of George Floyd in the US. Well, what the heck has George Floyd got to do with the UK? That's like referencing apartheid in South Africa. It's like that's nothing to do with us. Different countries. That's like referencing the caste system in India. What's that got to do with us? It's got absolutely nothing to do with where we live. Nothing to do with our culture. Nothing to do with our history. Nothing. Different countries. George Floyd was in America. Might as well have happened on the moon or on Mars for how relevant that is to us. It's just such a red herring, and it's just a lazy argument to try and make. The controversial diversity document, which promotes claims on some contested beliefs, was steered by Essex Police's diversity and inclusion team. Well, what a surprise! They've got a diversity and inclusion team. Who would have thought that? Nobody else would have come up with that, would they? At the time, the team's manager was Vernal Scott, that person should be sacked, who wrote that the strategy's destiny of life-enhancing outcomes for everybody will be well worth the inevitable occasional bump in the road. Is that what he calls being racist to the majority population of his constituency in the area in which he lives? Just, it's going to treat like the overwhelming majority of people differently to a minority group. It's absolute nut jobs, these people. Mr. Scott has since left the force. Well, thank God for that. Joining Oxford University needs to sack him. Joining Oxford University as head of its Equality and Diversity Unit in October 2023. By the way, there is photographs in here of these clips from this document. So if you want to read them, visit the site, and you can. But I won't go through the police documents themselves. Just read the story. The diversity department leader has faced criticism in his new role after he celebrated an attempt to shut down a conservative conference in Brussels last month. Because they are often the people that they accuse everybody else of being. So when they accuse people of being fascist, it's usually because they have fascistic sorts of tendencies themselves, like we're seeing here, where a legitimate and legal conference in Brussels was nearly shut down by the mayor of the city, using the police force as well. A regional mayor ordered Belgian police to shut down the National Conservative Conference, with Suella Braverman and Nigel Farage sat to speak. I applaud the mayor and the police of Brussels for their decision to close down this conference, Mr. Scott wrote on X, formerly Twitter. He has since deleted the post. I wonder why he deleted the post. Maybe it's because he realised that it made him look like Mussolini doing that, because that is exactly what he would have done with his League of Fascists. These people are just so short-sighted. They are literally everything that they claim other people are, and whatever they accuse others is usually what they are themselves. Sir Noel Malcolm, a senior research fellow at All Souls, told The Telegraph, "It's very troubling to think that someone appointed to promote diversity has such a narrow concept of what diversity is. The University of Oxford said its diversity head's comments do not represent the views of the university." Well, they should just sack him, get rid of him, because he's clearly not fit for the role. Rory, I can't pronounce that surname, founder of the Public Safety Foundation, told GB News the vast majority of police officers and staff come to work to help protect us all. So to see the woke wing of the police force promoting the idea, woke wing of the police force, that shouldn't even be a phrase that gets said, the woke wing of the police force. They should be a completely apolitical force who don't get involved in this kind of ideological BS. And anybody who does promote this in the police should just be sacked on the spot. It's just crazy. Police force promoting the idea of protected groups and non-protected groups is nothing short of appalling. Well, it's nothing short of actually failing in the duty as a police force, which is to be apolitical. It betrays the men and women of the front line who bravely and routinely risk their lives and their livelihoods for people, regardless of their skin colour, sex, or any other attribute. Exactly. Mr. I don't know his name, a former police officer, added, it also... No, I can't pronounce that. Sorry, I'm having a look at it, but I can't pronounce it. It also feeds the growing frustration and concern that pockets of policing are in the grip of activists who are willfully or ignorantly promoting device ideologies and politics. This is actively. These people know exactly what they're doing, and they are trying to bring about a socialist revolution. And that's what all this ideology is about. It's about trying to force revolution in the country because they think that they're going to be at the top of the tree. They think they're going to be Joseph Stalin when the revolution happens. They think they're going to be Lenin at the front, storming into Parliament. You know, that's what they think they're going to be doing. A layperson reading and reviewing these materials will be left concluding or wondering if white people are non-protected, a wholly outrageous idea to anybody of a reasonable nature, yet wholly acceptable to extremists and activists who are signed up to a divisive, racist ideology. I'm going to leave it at that because I've gone on for quite a bit. It's 15 minutes now. There is a little bit more, not a right lot more, but as I say, do read it yourself. It's absolutely shocking that the police feel empowered to actually promote this crap. I think it's probably illegal as well, actually, and it really, really does undermine the trust in the general public towards the police, particularly in Essex at this point. But like I say, we've seen it with the grooming gang scandal. We've seen it with the Manchester Arena bombings. We've seen it recently, actually, with the sub-postmasters. You know, the entire society is just... It's a facade. Everything is just a facade. All these institutions are just more interested in looking after their own, feathering their own nest, and just going with the flow of whatever the fad is at the time, you know. And they don't care about actually doing what's right. It's just shocking. As I say, please do put comments below. I am happy to be told I'm wrong, and even be proven wrong. I'm not a closed book. I do think I'm right in what I'm saying, but if your argument is strong enough, please do comment it below. If you've got a good enough argument, I will mull it over. I will think about it. And like I say, I'm more than happy to change my mind if your points are good enough. Please do also like, subscribe, and as I've just said, please do put comments below. Thank you and goodbye.